2011 Dodge Durango Citadel. It's the 5.7. The 5.7 liter. Just did a warranty replacement for the water pump because my customer was well within the year. Not well within the year. I put the pump on last year, but they're still within their year warranty, so this is free for them, like 7-8 months later. So, but that's not why I'm on here, but I wanted to give some information about diagnosing, checking that infamous code that everybody got on YouTube, the P0344 for these, where you arbitrarily change the cam sensor and the crank sensor down there in hopes that you'll resolve your problem. Ladies and gentlemen, just, diagnose your car. That's all I can say, because I can't begin to tell you how many times that code is going to point us in the wrong direction when it comes to just arbitrarily shooting parts at cars in hopes that it'll resolve it. That code that you get sometimes don't help. But I'm gonna give a few pointers. I do have a video. Hopefully this is gonna be the future tense. I'm hoping that this video is gonna go out. For starters, because I am going to say this is a confirmed fix, being that I've driven the car 30 miles with no check engine light. But there's going to be a video I'm going to post shortly after this, after my rant about what currently went on and my issues diagnosing this about the cam sensor. And in that, you'll see me diagnosing the cam sensor and literally see it falling off. Because of that infamous intermittent issue, this car took me for a loop for several hours chasing down this cam. Despite literally seeing this cam fall off, check engine light coming on, replaced it, thought it was a fix, drove it 20 miles, and then bam, light come back on. Even though the light would come on more frequently before the replacement. After the replacement, it fixed it. Even it was an aftermarket part from my part stores or O'Reilly, so everything seemed fine. Came back, started scoping everything. Light started coming on. I spent hours trying to figure out what was going on with it. A lot of unnecessary time in hindsight, but I learned something. So when I started diagnosing the car, found a lot of inconsistencies and wasn't too sure what I was looking at. And honestly, I think I was just beating a dead horse diagnosing the cam sensor. Even though the first time I saw it fall off, by the code setting criteria, it would have to have seen a unsynced cam and crank approximately 4 times within a specific time frame for it to trigger a code. I didn't see that, despite seeing it fall off the first time, which you'll see, and causing check engine light to come on because it literally flatlined. So I got desperate. I thought maybe it was part quality. I put bad new parts on there, and there's a debate on as far as aftermarket parts versus dealership parts. I do have dealership parts for this. I have not put them on because I still want to provide people with information as far as what to check, what happened, what to do, because I want to see it fall off. I literally want to see it. But I will, let me just speed up. After changing the cam sensor with the BWD brand, which O'Reilly don't sell no more since they moved to standard products, I went to Advanced Auto, got a BWD brand, their former brand. It was worse. I literally couldn't make it down the road without the check engine light popping on. Put the original fixed one in there that was seemingly longer between check engine light intervals. It would last a little longer before the check engine light come on. Now, when I put the other stuff back in there, another crank and cam, checking, like it would just be worse. So I had to put the original stuff back in there. So I'm like, you know what, it's going out of town. Got the gave the lady back her truck and just told her, we're gonna, when I get back, I'm gonna continue to diagnose it and find out what's going on with it. Then we'll go from there. Went to the dealer, got a cam and crank sensor. Bought that, and because I'm like, you know what, it has to be an aftermarket problem. I mean, I'm literally like, I'm looking at voltage over time, and I'm literally not seeing things transpire to the code setting criteria. So I'm like, what the fuck, I'm lost here. So I'm saying right now, I'm assuming that this is fixed because again, I've driven 30 miles with no problems, and the fix for this car, despite the P0344, the intermittent cam fault, was an oil change. So changed the oil, and things evidently started panning out, started working a lot better. This is put in a Fiji bottle. I don't know if I can see this, but this was the oil that was in there. Some of it, I mean, it looks watered down, but she did go to an oil change place and they changed the oil, and this is the oil I put in there. I mean, it's clean, brand new. It's definitely more dense and heavier. But I do believe, strangely, once the lady got the oil changed, then she started having more frequent problems. I think they may have put the wrong viscosity oil in there, like a 0 weight versus 520 was recommended, or either a 530. But these cars are also known for having cam problems. So it could be that the cam is wearing out and the tolerances are probably bad, and it needs like a 530 weight oil in here. I'm just my conjecture right now. So again, I don't have any information as far as directly pinpointing people, but what I do have is some still shots of freeze frame that isn't a legitimate freeze frame from the computer, but I do have still shots of various RPMs that you can compare with your scan tool to maybe during, well, this was at idle. So when you look at the freeze frame, you'll see that at our 600 RPM, you'll have what I have in there is the exhaust angle and desire angle. Let me show you. All right, so let me go back. Let me go to my photos here, to gallery. So this is 650 RPM. You got the coolant temperature. I've been letting the car run. You got the oil pressure here. You got the VVT oil pressure. It's supposed to be synonymous with the engine oil pressure there. And exhaust cam. This is a single cam. It's not a dual overhead cam or anything. The phasers sit in the lifter galley. I think that's what they call these on the V8s. Sorry, I'm not a big person on this V8s, but but it basically sits behind the water pump in that little valley. Here's a duty cycle here, percentage at idle. You got the cam angle and the desired position versus actual. All right, I've risen the RPM. Again, this is stationary. Risen the RPM, 1600 RPM. We got this temperature here, oil pressure, and I'm not sure. I think this is like a bias pressure here, but because I mean, like a normal car that's idle, 220 degrees, normally it's going to be at probably 25-30 psi. I think that's what it was last time. Yeah. So I think it's right, but I don't know, it doesn't seem right. So, but there you go. This is working, allegedly. If I don't post anything of it, obviously it's gonna be fixed. I'm gonna drive this today for the rest of the night and I don't know. So now I'll say during the snap throttle, the exhaust cam angle did go up to, I've seen it the most is 24 degrees, but leveling out at negative 19. Well, it was negative 24 and leveled out at negative 19. So still here you have the actual versus desired cam angle. Here's a 27 stationary again, coolant temperature there, oil pressure, VVT oil pressure. Here we got duty cycle percentage. Now this is me snapping probably right around the rising of the RPM, and it is falling off, and it's probably, I've seen it level out around negative 20 also, but here you have desired versus actual cam angle, and that's it. So I mean, this is some numbers you can compare with yours. I wish I had more information about what caused this, but it makes sense how it could interpret a bad cam signal. Maybe, again, I don't know, because there's no information about this, but maybe the lack of oil pressure, insufficient flow of things caused the delay with transitioning between on and off, or something with the duty cycle causing the crank to get out of sync. You know, so I will say also, while driving and the code was at its worst, I mean, it would cause the car to really bog. It would force you to have to slow down, to pull over, to reset things. It was extremely lacking in power, like a misfire. I mean, and it makes sense for, you know, deep oil control valves to do stuff like that, but it would still drive fine, idle fine. I would do a cam and crank sync on here, and it would do fine. At idle, it would be perfect fine. Revving it up stationary, it would do fine. Under a load, however, is when the problems would occur. So I'm thinking maybe it's a misfire thing, you know, fuel, octane. I'm just getting desperate at that point. No, it wasn't that. I didn't understand if it was a cam crank sync, or I'm sorry, a cam intermittent fault, how at idle or revving RPM, snap throttles, nothing would change. Strangely, under reload, it would change. I mean, it makes sense for it to be the oil at this point, in hindsight, because under load, it creates that demand for the duty cycle to change for this cam to optimize power. So I'm gonna stop talking, and here you have the working info here, my thoughts on it, my theories on it, and you know, you can, maybe somebody can add some additional information in here. Again, you know, I got 100,000 people, but you know, just the views are just not there where they're supposed to be, you know. So maybe somebody can fill me in. Other than that, I'm gonna put up the video of me diagnosing, well, part of it, because I don't want, you know, I already told you what it is, and but mainly I just wanted you to see it falling off. I'm gonna save you the viewing for the most part, because again, a lot of it was testing wires. I mean, it's just a traditional Hall sensor. You have a 5-volt reference, you have a ground, and you have a signal wire. Signal wire is what we're going to connect to look at the waveform, the interpretation. And it got to the point where I was doing resistance tests from the computer to the wiring. I mean, even though I already confirmed that everything's fine, doing wiggle tests, wasting a lot of time on this, going back over everything 3-4 times, and I'm like, well, I'm just going in circles. Now, on this system here, from what I understand, all Chryslers are pulled down, so you're going to have a bias voltage on the signal wire So it'll basically, you'll see voltage there if you put it on a test digital voltmeter, but when you connect a test light, it doesn't do anything. But one side will faintly illuminate a test light. There's a bias voltage on the signal wire. So don't be aware. Don't make it a thing like, oh my gosh, I have voltage here, I gotta look for a short. No, that's just how that system operates from what I understand. So I think if I'm missing anything, please let me know. But other than that, I'm gonna post that video of the waveforms, the crank cam, and go from there. Peace and haggeries. So I'm hooked up now to the crank and cam sensor. Alright, let me see. Here's the wire diagram. I went on for the crankshaft, I went on it was a brown and light blue. So it's like a really dark color though, I'll tell you that. I guess it's gonna be dark blue and gray for the cam signal. That wire light looked black to me. So I'm hooked up on them, and I'm just gonna monitor the. I was gonna monitor the signals. Just glare off the screen. Oh, what kind of time base? I got it on a 10-volt scale. I do have maximum and minimum there, but unfortunately, it's not gonna. It alters so much. I mean, it's not even worth really having on there. I'm just gonna take them off because I mean, you have to really have a specific time base for it to work properly. So, what I'm gonna do, I'm going to stop it and start it. Let it run its course for a little bit, and I'm gonna zoom in on what I assume to be the start and phase of it. I guess it's between that gap on the crank, and I'm gonna see if Identifix got a good known waveform. But I'm pretty sure that connector probably had something to do with it. I mean, being that the connector was off, I mean, it could have just so happened to have like some intermittent issues and causing the check-in light to come on. I mean, it makes sense. The connector was probably just defective. So let me see what I can find on Identifix and go from there. Oh, how to access the crank sensor on this car. You have to go from the bottom on the passenger side. There's a little heat shield for a knock sensor you have to take off. That's just, you just expand the ears on it and pull it off. I don't have that button up yet, but there's a little portal hole. I think it's where you drain the oil at, but you can get your hand through there if you decide to take that shield off. I didn't take that off. I just kind of muscled my way through it. Probably might have to do it since the car is hot now. But it is a little difficult to access, and I had to take my razor there and cut through the little shield. So, but yeah, it's on that side over there on the bottom. If you decide to go through the harness, which I highly doubt, this harness here with this aluminum, I don't know the material, looking insulator down at the bottom, that's where that goes to the knock sensor and the crank sensor down at the bottom. So let me see what I can find out. Okay, so it happened. It's still hooked up, and that's my cam sensor. Look, it came. Wow, caught it. I caught it. This is great. So what we just witnessed was the cam signal that was lost. The check-in light just popped on, and I was like stuck. I'm like, what should I do? What should I do? Should I leave it alone? Should I just move? Because if I move, it might just pop back on. So I got the camera on. We saw it. It fell off. We're gonna put a cam sensor in it. The new crank sensor in there. I didn't change the cam. I'm gonna take it on the inner city test drive and see what happens. I'm going to let the computer make the determination, because obviously maybe it's my scan tool, maybe it's the setting in here I'm not putting in, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing anything fall off from the cam, but from Identifix, evidently putting the crank sensor in for the P0344 will resolve this problem. But I'm hoping I can get some information, as much data as I can, because I don't want to be the part changer, but evidently, I mean, no cheaper than what they are and how accessible this part is. I had to follow suit of the group. But see what happens. All right, after 20 mile test drive, I got to come back. Code came back. I want to say this new sensor is less frequent with the last sensor, because I mean the other sensor will come on quite a bit. If I can clear it, and it'll come right back up like some miles later. This is what I'm gonna do. I know aftermarket parts can be bad. I only question this aftermarket one because of just some of the ripples I've seen up top here, and I would rather see it be a smooth edge like that. I mean, the crank, it could be my connection. Crank could be probably the culprit. I'm still don't understand how the crank can impact the cam sensor. What I'm gonna do, I really hate to do this, but I'm gonna put both on there. I'm gonna replace this cam sensor, see if this wave changes, if it smooths out at top like this one, and the bottom, smooths out. And I'm gonna change the crank and retest drive it. It's the only thing I really can do, because I didn't see it fall out while I was test driving. When the light came on, I was driving looking down periodically, and there was no obvious fallouts or anything. So I'm not sure what the computer's seeing that's making it kick the check engine light on. But I'm not sure if those ripples and anything have anything to do with it. So I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna change both of the sensors and test drive it and recheck it and see if this cam sensor wave look a lot better. The new crank sensor in there. I didn't change the cam. I'm gonna take it on the inner city test drive and see what happens. I'm gonna let the computer make the determination, because obviously maybe it's my scan tool, maybe it's the setting in here I'm not putting in, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing anything fall off from the cam, but from Identifix, evidently putting the crank sensor in for the P0344 will resolve this problem. But I'm hoping I can get some information, as much data as I can, because I don't want to be the part changer, but evidently, I mean, no cheaper than what they are and how accessible this part is. I had to follow suit of the group. But see what happens.